Welcome, 16-bit hockey fans, to another edition of the NHL 94 podcast. I'm Len, the legend, and today we'll be building lines once again with AJ. AJ was very kind enough to do the Norris division. Now we're going to be doing the Smythe division. But before we go any further, AJ, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited to talk about what might be my favorite division in the NHL, especially, it definitely contains my favorite team, San Jose.
The Sharks. Well, I picked them in the fantasy league. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that new league that sparked up. The draft just took place a few days ago, and I'm the Sharks because I do like the organ music for their home team, their home arena. So, but that's just me. So yeah, I'll be wearing the teal. I'll be repping them, and hopefully I'll be able to do well with them. But either way, any quick words about this division, like just a quick overview, what you could say about them before we dive deep?
It's a fast division. It may not be the most skilled in certain regards, but my gosh, these teams can absolutely fly. They're maybe a little disjointed, so there's a few of them where you got to really put the time in to learn with them because they're not just pick up and play teams. And then you got a couple of franchises that are just new to the league, and they're going to cause some headaches with your roster construction.
Yeah, so let's just dive right into this because we'll start off with, we're doing the Smythe, as I mentioned. We'll be doing for the Genesis. Anaheim, number one, is the first team we'll be talking about. And oh my God, does this team absolutely suck, in my opinion. I personally, I think they are the worst team in the game because there's nothing here that I like. At least Ottawa has Turgeon. At least Tampa has Bradley. And, you look at the other teams, they have something better than what these guys have to offer. So, let's just dive deep into this team. What can you say about them?
I agree. I think they are the worst team because they don't have a lot of diversification at the top of their lineup. I mean, we look at their forwards. You have Yake and Semenov. That's basically 2/3 of an okay line, but they're very similar type players. So, like in Ottawa, you get Turgeon and Baker, or Turgeon and Smell, where you got one fast guy, one defensive guy, or you got a guy that can do a little bit of everything. These two, they're very even across the board. You see very few red cells, very few green cells on their player breakdowns. You could put either one on left wing or center. They're both fine there. I like Yake on the left wing for his EA specials these days, and Semenov's a perfectly fine center. And then your right wing is kind of just whatever you want. Do you want more of the same that you already have? Go for Lonnie Loach. Do you want a little bit of a weight bugger with no skill? Tim Sweeney. Do you want a CB guy who can kind of move? Troy Loney. And that's basically really the only decision you had to make on the line is who to have as your third guy. And I tend to usually go Loach because you're already huge on the back line with Leducer and Kasatonov. They're actually a pretty decent pairing. They can move fairly well. They CB check, and then Kasatonov actually has a lot of plus skills for a defenseman. So he's a perfectly fine number one defenseman in this tier. So the top of your lineup, Yake, Semenov, Kasatonov, can play with a lot of teams in this tier. It's just that their depth is really brutal. Even their depth defenseman is like Bill Holder's basically the same thing. Big, huge guy, can move a little bit. Hill and Williams, those are your weight buggers in quotation, quotes. They're not really weight buggers, and they don't really have any plus skills. And then possibly the worst goaltending tandem in the game, Hebert and Tugnut. Hebert he's heavy for his agility. He takes a lot to get moving, but he's a little bit more sturdy. And then Tugnut just whips around the net, but he's got like no limbs. He's just all chest protector.
It sounds like Tugnut would be a good one to try to learn how to play manual goalie, just because he's so light and you have to actually be in front of the puck to stop it. So would you say that he's a good option just to figure out and to learn the ropes to be a manual goalie, or is he's still just a crappy option even for that?
A little bit of both. He's going to be crappy, but he's going to be something you can work with. I mean, I will rotate these goalies in certain matchups. If I feel like I'm going to get a guy that's going to make me take my goalie a lot, I will use Tugnut because I feel more comfortable with him. If I'm playing against a guy I don't really expect to touch my goalie that much, I'll use Hebert because he's a little bit better. And when I mean say a little bit, I mean a teeny tiny bit. But yeah, it's a rough team. It's tough to match them up against, it's Tampa Bay and San Jose. I think that might be too much for them. You basically stick with Florida and Ottawa, and they can do enough there. But once you take them out of that comfort zone, oh man, it's not good. They don't have a lot. Like I couldn't even think of 5 real pros. I mean, the last ones they start the game with 5 players and their goalie. That's great.
They're bad. And so like just going through the depth over here on the right side, there's so much red, and there's nothing here that just stands out that, Kasatanov's the only other guy that might be decent, but he's just sort of heavy. Like you have to be playing good positional hockey with him in order to maximize his effectiveness. Other than that, it's like Williams, Hill.
Kasatanov's is a CB specialist. He's the only player that will, if in a draft league, that if you draft him, he's going to possibly start, because I know King Raf loves Kasatonov, and I personally really enjoy Kasatonov as well, because he's agile, he's got skills, and that agility really helps with the CB checking, because he accelerates very quickly off the line and he just smashes people. And don't undersell his value, but it's tough for one player to carry the whole team as a CB type player, because you can't really carry the puck up the ice as easily with these guys. But,
you got to take advantage of a lot of passes and positional play. It's this is, in my opinion, this team, like I mentioned, it's the worst. I'd prefer to take Florida, even though there's really not much depth over there in Florida in forwards, but at least they have Murphy, and they're able to to counter some of what Anaheim has to offer. Anaheim's just, in my opinion, the worst team. So stay away from them. That's just my opinion. But any last thoughts before we transition to Calgary's next? So any last thoughts on Anaheim before we move on?
Better days are ahead for them, but not in 94.
All right, let's talk about Calgary. Wow, I just want to say right off the bat, it's almost like you expect more from them. I never seem to play well with them for whatever reason, but the players they have, they're remarkable individually, but collectively, I don't know. What's your analysis of them?
Feels like I'm always trying to break in a horse with Calgary, because they just want a buck, and you're just like trying to tame them to go, okay, just do this little thing I want you to do. I know you're capable of so much, but you're going to drive me nuts if you're going to try and do that, because I just want you to do something that I can control. And that's what Calgary is to me. They have all this talent. They have so many line combinations that, like, what we have here is just the tip of the iceberg. Fleury at left, Roberts center, Reichel right wing. I think that's like their best possible line when they're firing on all cylinders. You got your big shooter, Roberts. Excuse me. You got Reichel, who's your do everything at a competent, consistent level in a lightweight package. Like, he's a very good player. And then you have Fleury, who's just an absolute maniac on blades. He's just crushing skulls. He's not the most skilled on offense, but he's fast, so he can at least try to make things happen in that regard. And when these guys are flowing, 7-8 goals, no problem, easy. Doesn't matter who they're playing against; they're gonna do a lot of damage. But when they're not, kind of connecting, you have to start looking at your bench. You got Sergei Makarov, who's a stick handling and passing specialist, can't shoot for a lick, but I mean, he can get around the ice, dance around people, and make those nice passes. You have Neuendijk, who's just a lesser Roberts. You don't get a lot of play out of him. You can maybe put him at center, and he's going to be fine, but he's not going to be a game breaker. And then you have, just some bits and pieces. Paul Ranheim, you'll see him as a penalty kill sub. Joel Otto, you'll see him as a penalty kill sub. Otto's huge, probably too huge. Doesn't have enough skills to be more than just a plugger out there. And then Ranheim's, he's fast, but he doesn't have any plus skills. But man, you think you're going to get so much out of this team, and then you don't. And then you look at their defense and you go, I should still be getting more, because you got Suter and McInnes. These are two amazing defensemen that play a confounding style. A lot of people hate Suter. Excuse me. He's got the nice agility package. He's got good defensive awareness, but he's got high offensive awareness. And a lot of people don't like high offensive awareness. So you look at their two starters, Suter and McInnes, they have 4 rating there, which is very high for defensemen. And even McInnes, he's got higher offensive awareness than defensive awareness. So he kind of gets lost in that neutral zone a lot. He wants to get up into the play, and you actually want to shoot the puck with him, but he has 1 accuracy, 6 shot power, but 1 accuracy. How often is that going to be useful? Not very. So you're probably going to have more risk to your reward in that package than you would like. And then he's not very good defensively. They're both middleweights. They don't complement each other great in terms of weight balance. I mean, you don't have a CB guy and a weight bug guy, or 2 weight bug guys or something. They're both very mid. So it's almost like you have too much of the same thing, kind of like what I was talking about Anaheim, too much of the same thing. It's the same thing here in Calgary on their defense. So you look at other options, and you got Petit, who's the more skilled one, but heavy. Musil, who's fast, but no skill and heavy. People like Dahlquist and Dahl, because of their defensive awareness, and that, that they kind of just stay home on a team that's just so crazy. it's nice to know where at least one guy is on the ice, and that's why a lot of people will go to these guys. And they're not bad, but they're also a little overmatched, I think, in tier 2. So you got to be careful with them. And then Roger Johansson, he's kind of like the middle 7-weight, middle skill, decent skating. So you have options everywhere. Like 9 of their 10 defensemen are useful. Greg Smith's not useful. Stay away from him. Leave him alone. Let that sleeping bird dog lie. But everybody else you can play to a certain degree. And that's what makes this team hard as well, is that so many options. You never know where to start. But when they're on, they have chemistry, they have skill all up and down the lineup that very few teams can compare with. They have a weight bug checker in Fleury, and every guy on the ice can score. But you never know what you're going to get from game to game. And then your goalie, if you have a team like this, you want a stud goalie just kind of hold down the fort. You get the exact opposite in this case with Mike Vernon. He's light, but he's slow. So he's very weird to use because he kind of flies around once he gets going, but it takes him a little bit to get going. So when these quicker teams get these quick plays on him, he's a step behind. And he's not very good at holding his ground either against these teams crashing his net. So he's just kind of, he's not what you want on this team. So when you put it all together, you got a team with an extremely high ceiling and a very low floor. And it's scary, especially in a tournament when you got one game. They're very scary to use.
You're rolling the dice. They're tier 2. So in terms of other tier 2 teams, would you say that they are maybe one of the worst, if not the worst in that tier?
Their worst is the worst in that tier, easily.
Yeah.
Just because of how crazy they are. And at home, they can be unpredictable as heck because they get the low advantage at home. So when they're bad at home, they are so bad. Like Detroit can be bad at home because they have the same issue. But Calgary can just, they're like unusable in some instances. But yeah, their ceiling is also one of the highest in tier 2. That's why they're there. So
you just don't know what you're going to get. But
yeah,
the Fleury and Roberts, they just looking at the numbers alone, like Fleury is just, he's a menace out there because he could just nail everybody and send him to the ice. But Roberts, he's a great guy up the middle. If he doesn't get weight bug checked, because he's kind of middleweight, kind of just approaching that territory, but he's got the skill to really just cause some damage. But you're right, this team, for whatever reason, and I have that same problem with them, that just individually look at the players, they're really good, but collectively, my gosh. And Suter, I like playing with Suter. He is, in my opinion, he's a stud. Like, he may be a little heavy, but man, oh man, he checks a lot of boxes for me when I'm playing with him. So I don't know if people are down on him for what reason. That's kind of strange. He's just, the numbers look really good for him.
I'd like to get Suter on a draft team to kind of isolate him away from this bit of a mess. Because the same thing about Chelios, people say like, oh, I don't like Chelios for whatever reason. It's like, well, he's also very similarly ready player. But once I got him onto a draft team, he was amazing.
Yeah,
I could not believe people did not like using Chelios. So I want to take more time with Suter moving forward because I think he has that same kind of potential as Chelios. So don't underestimate Suter, but just know that in this team it can, and with his partner specifically McInnes, who can be confounding, is a delicate balance.
And goalie, they did Vernon dirty in this game because in real life he was a more than competent goalie, won the Stanley Cup more than once. And this was at a time when Calgary kept getting kicked out in the first round of the playoffs, but it wasn't because of Vernon's play. He was, very, very, very solid, competent, at least probably, almost borderline stellar. So it's too bad they gave him these crappy ratings because he deserved better in this game. I don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah. But when I make fun of Vernon on Discord, it's just his 94 version. I respect the actual goaltending he had in NHL, and he's a good Sharks goaltender too at the end of his career.
Yeah, he was.
No disrespect to him.
Yeah. Any last thoughts with Calgary before we dive off to their Edmonton opponents?
Select with caution whether for yourself or for your opponent.
So here we go. Let's move on up the road a little further north, a few hours. We'll go to Edmonton, and I like Edmonton. In my opinion, they play above their weight. I seem to have a lot of success with them. I don't know how I do it, but I seem to have much better than what they are individually. And Simpson is an absolute stud sometimes. Other times he's just, pedestrian at that. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Edmonton?
So they're a difficult team because Peter Klima is a easily top 10 player. Some may even consider him closer to 5 than the 10th overall in the game, especially when you're using him in user control, because he doesn't pass. He has a very low pass rating. But when you have the puck with him, you're generally just going for the goal. So he's very dangerous in that regard. And that's what makes Edmonton what it is that they have the top player in the tier by quite a bit. And he can carry his team to success because of that, because he can just kind of dance around a lot of these different teams in his tier. And if you take him up a tier or two, he's still going to be dangerous. It's just the rest of the team kind of suffers because they're spare parts, let's be honest, in comparison to Klima. You have Craig Simpson, who, like you already alluded to, he's a decent player. He's a sniper. He's an out-and-out sniper. You set him up for one-timers. He's not going to create a ton of his own offense. He's capable of it here and there. But he's a sniper out and out. And you got Kevin Todd, who's your weight bug specialist that you just throw onto the other wing and you just try and mow down that left winger, because a lot of teams have their best winger on the left side, not the right side. Mm-hmm. And if they're a little bit heavier, Todd's fast enough to keep up with them and just, ruin their day. Their depth, I've been stepping away from Todd personally recently, and I've been going to Zdeno Chigrin. I like his extra agility. He's got 7 weight. He's got very even ratings across the board, like all threes. He's just a consistent player, and I like his agility, because needing a little bit more offense outside of Klima and Simpsons can be useful just to have, and you don't lose a whole lot checking wise, because I personally don't care for Todd. I don't usually use him in user control too often, so I don't feel like I'm losing a lot. If I want a guy that's going to hit, I go Shane Corson. He's fast. He's a good skater. He does his own work on the wing because he's a forward checker, so you can just leave him alone and he'll still run people over. And he's got 9 weight, so he's a good sturdy package to just run at people with. And then the rest of their depth, Weight, McTavish, Ellick, I tend to stay away from them. They're just there for, if you get into penalties, or, McTavish can be a penalty kill center that you'll see default if you don't change your lineup. So it's just good to be aware of their skill set, where McTavish, he's a good checker. He can move, but he's got no offensive skill whatsoever. But Klima's going to carry all the water for this team. They go as he goes. If he's getting shut down, Edmonton's going to struggle to create offense at a consistent rate. And you can't really look to their defense either for help in that regard. Kravchuk and Manson are a very competent duo. They're very sturdy. They're both 9 weight. They can skate well. Manson's got a big shot power, but the one accuracy, again, how often are you going to use it and be successful with it? He's got 4 checking, so he can really just run people over. What you'll notice about this team is that there's nobody over 3 passing. So breakout passes to Klima can be a bit of an adventure. You kind of maybe want to string a pass or 2 together to get it to him eventually, to make sure the offense stays flowing. Because if you're just throwing home run passes out to him, they're going to be pretty easy to pick off, because the lower pass ratings means there's less velocity, there's less accuracy, and it can be very difficult to kickstart offense if you're kind of hemmed in your own zone with Edmonton. So just be cognizant of that. And that's pretty much your best deep pairing. There's no weight bugger defenseman here to consider. The bigger, heavier defensemen are demonstrably worse. Brian Glenn, Luke Richardson, Chris Joseph, they're all demonstrably worse than Kravchuk. So there's no real reason to put them in. They're just there for, penalties, because you're gonna get penalties obviously with these guys, and you just need to be aware of what these guys can do. Like, I personally like Jeff Smith the most off the bench, because he's got 4 agility. He can't do much else, but the 4 agility is kind of nice at that heavy weight, because he feels like Kravchuk. And then Ranford, great goalie, underrated. I think people in the draft leagues know about him because he does go fairly high for his overall. I think it's like a high 60 overall, 67, 68. But his low weight and his good agility with his very strong pads, he's got even a 5 glove rating, which is very unusual for a goalie at this overall. He's very sturdy. He's excellent to use. He's snappy. His offensive his awareness levels aren't that high, and we're starting to learn what those may do with Chaos kind of working on the awareness ratings. But right now, I don't really adjust my opinion based on the awareness rating quite yet. So I like Ranford a lot. And then if you really want to use Tugnut, he's here again already.
He's coming back again. Yeah, same attributes, but unfortunately for in his point of view, it's he's behind Ranford, as you're saying, to be much better goalie than Tugger. So
yes,
why would you go to Tugger when you have Ranford? He seems like the better goalie.
And then one thing to consider with this team is that they have a very high road disadvantage. Not very high, just a high, regular high. There is no, well, there is a very high, but we'll get to that with the expansion teams. So if you're calling matchups, they can be a little bit scary if you think you're going to get Edmonton on the road. I try to get Edmonton at home if possible, or if I make sure I pick them in a matchup where the other team has a low home advantage to try and minimize the effect of the high disadvantage, because I don't want to. Philly Edmonton's a scary matchup to call as the visitor because they both have high road disadvantage, and then Philly has a high home advantage. So it could be +2 for them, -2 for you, and that you might get a really bad game out of your team, and they might get a really great game out of their team, and just something to consider at the tournament level. But in regular season play, I mean, you can only do so much. You just have to be aware that maybe you change your game plan, play a little bit closer to the vest, try to clog up your slot a little bit more, do shorter passes because your passer ratings are always going to be bad with this team. And if you got a hot Klima or a decent Klima, just try and ride him out the best you can.
So I noticed you don't have Simpson at all as a centerman on your team. So you're strictly just having Klima in the middle, and he's going to be wherever Klima goes, this team goes, right? That's in your opinion?
Yeah. So the reason I don't like Simpson at center is because he's a little bit slow for a center. In this tier, he doesn't really match up with any of the centers all that well. Whether he's too slow or you can't weight bug check them or you can't CV check them or anything. And Klima's a 3 passer. So he's not going to slip the puck into a lot of, tight areas to find Simpson, who they're also very diverse speeds or very different speeds. Klima's a 5. So by the time he's rushing up the ice, Simpson may very likely be chugging along so slowly that he's not in the window yet. And so you're not timing things out right. Whereas with the center, if you got Klima at center, and you have to kind of weave your way in and out of defenders, it gives Simpson more time to get to that wing on that quiet area on the side where you just slide the puck over to him as the defense is kind of going one way, the pass goes the other way, and then Simpson's there to just kind of bury a one-timer, which is really his specialty. Anything around the face-off circles, he's deadly.
Yeah, agreed. And their defense, wow, they are heavy. I never realized that till now, and I'm looking at this chart. Just bunch of heavy guys. But yeah, Manson, I'm a big fan of Manson. I think he's very competent in the right hands. Kravchuk is more than competent as well, but beyond that,
yeah, it's a big
Smythe.
boy sure.
I see the way you like him because that forward agility is solid, but still, man, oh man, just there's nothing else behind Kravchuk and Manson. This is just not a very deep team on a defense. So if you get an injury problem or penalty problems, you're just in for world of hurt with Edmonton. So
absolutely, yeah. I do like Richardson. Also, he's one of my consistent players on my draft league teams. He's big. He moves pretty well at his size. He's got forechecking. You just play a bit of a hot potato with the puck on his stick. I get real nervous with him because I know these light forwards are just coming into like heat-seeking missiles on him, and like, oh boy, got to get rid of this thing with him now that I've CB checked successfully.
Yep. Yeah, he's very, very good in SNES version, but we're not going to get into that. That's a topic for another time. But yeah, any final comments before we transition over to LA?
If you're not comfortable using a one-man team, stay away from this squad. But if you don't mind dangling and dipsy doodling with Peter Klima, this is a dangerous team.
LA Kings. I love the Kings. Oh my God, they are so much fun to play. Zero defense when you're looking at, it's actually have a competent defense, but the goalie's pathetic. But you can have so much fun. There's so many different combinations you could put up front, and they could just score goals by the bundle. They give up goals by the bundle as well, but who cares? That's what it's all about. It's having fun. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the Kings?
So huge disclaimer. I'm a major 94 Kings fanboy. Oh. This is probably one of my top 5 teams that I feel very comfortable with in almost any matchup because, like you said, their roster is tier 1. It's once you get to the goalie that you lose that tier 1 status because he's so bad. But when you talk about the 5-man unit itself, I think it's easily top 5, and it may be an argument for top 3, at least the way I personally feel about them, because you got your obvious, do everything forward, not do everything, two-way forward, Wayne Gretzky. He can make plays. He's very agile. He's great with the puck on his stick. He's difficult to chase down. He makes great passes. He plays great defense because he's a weight bugger. So having 6 agility and the 4 weight makes him like one of the best weight bug checkers in the game, because it's very easy to kind of adjust what you're doing on defense with him and just kind of square up those hits. And then when he has the puck, he's a pain in the neck to get it off of, and he's trying to pass it to one of the most dangerous shooters in the game, Tomas Sandstrom, in the middle. Sandstrom 5'5" shot, absolute dead eye. I mean, his range is almost extended to the blue line on what he can do damage-wise, especially on goalies that aren't Belfour or Waugh. So in tier 2, you got a lot of weaker goalies. You got Vernon, you got Moog, who's good in manual, but not so hot in AI goalie. Essence is fine. And there's someone else I'm forgetting, but anyways, in this tier, he's excellent. His shot is premier, and he's a decent enough skater where he can actually CB check some people too if they're unsuspecting. Like, he can forecheck fairly well at his size. And
Calgary is the other tier 2 team, right?
Yeah, so Vernon, he eats Vernon alive.
Yeah. So sorry, you mentioned Vernon. Yeah, I'm trying to think who's the last tier 2 team. Either way, we'll come across them.
And then Granato, I personally like Granato on the right wing because he brings another element to the line, whereas I feel like Robitaille is a lot of the same stuff that Sandstrom is. And I don't value Robitaille's stick handling on this team. He has 5 stick handling, does Robitaille, which is very useful because you can kind of dodge around some checks with that. But you already have Gretzky doing a lot of the puck carrying. So I feel like Robitaille is almost a little redundant, and he's not very good defensively or in AI mode on defense on his own. So I tend to prefer Granato, because if I get that breakout pass to Granato, he's zooming up the ice with that 5 speed. And he may only have 4 agility, but he's right-handed, unlike Benoit Hogue, who's left-handed, which we've dogged Benoit Hogue before in other forums. But Granato I really like because he's right-handed. He actually feels pretty good with his skating package, and he's got just enough skill to be a threat out there. And I've had some big games with Granato. Other people have had big games with Granato. So he's kind of like one of those sleeper players that, you just start Robitaille, Gretzky, Sandstrom, and you forget about it. No, I really think that Granato shouldn't be slept on. But you can still put Robitaille out there. I mean, he's in one of the suggested line combos here. And then you can also put Robitaille in the center. He's an excellent shooter in his own right. 4 shot power, 6 accuracy. That's very uncommon, especially in a package that you actually want to use, because Dmitry Kristich, very slow. Eric Lindros is very heavy and slow. Robitaille is actually like by far the best player with that shot package. And then you put Granato on the right wing, and you kind of have a lightweight lineup that can still do a lot of the things that what you were doing with Sandstrom, but just, you have a little bit different center, which brings something different to the table. Like, if you're facing Theo Fleury and he's just crushing your team, he's just crushing Sandstrom all day long, maybe Robitaille can get around a little bit easier because he's a little bit better skater. He's got the 5 stick handling, so he can absorb some checks sometimes. And then you got Jimmy Carson, who's another excellent player. Never gets any ice time other than penalty kill. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a great draft league player. He's a little bit heavier. He's same weight as Sandstrom, 9 weight, but not quite as good of a shooter with the 4 shot power. Basically the same player, and right-handed. So if you like a right-handed player, there's no issue with starting Carson. It's just, how can you get him playing time? And then you have Hall of Famer Yari Curry, even behind that. He can't get any playing time either. And he's not as good as Carson, but he's a decent player. And then you have your other weight bug guy, which I've seen people use Corey Millen before on the other wing. 4 weight, 4 speed. He can pretend to be a player out there. He can just be annoying, is what it is. You don't really fear him when he has the puck on his stick. He's more dangerous with the puck off his stick, really. And that's why people will start him. I think Seb, he's one of the guys that I played in the King 94 finals. I think it was 2 years ago. I think he uses Millen or loves Millen. So he's something to consider if you're just a weight bug specialist. And this forward unit is just excellent. I love this forward unit. And then the defensive unit, I think, is the one that gets a lot of flack. But it's really all you could ask for. You got Zhitnik, you got your weight bug specialist who can skate. He's got 4-4 skating, which is not common in defenders. And he's light. So that's really nice. And you got Blake, who's also a 4-4 skater, and he's huge, which is unusual and really nice. And he's right-handed, so he feels pretty good out there, despite his weight. So these two guys, they complement each other well. They complement the team well. And they really can play a lockdown style of defense. And I love them. I love these two defenders. I think they're way up there on my list. Like, just to have a useful right-handed defenseman is something that shouldn't be overlooked. And that's what Rob Blake is. He's very useful. And then you have decent depth. You have Daryl Sador, who's a 9 weight, very balanced. Marty McSorley, who's the largest man in the game. that you can actually pretend to ice. He just doesn't have any standout abilities other than being huge. So he'll run over everybody, but he's such overkill that it's difficult to really get anything going with him on offense. And then the real soft underbelly of this team, Kelly Rudy, a little bit heavy, especially at his agility. Very bad pads, the low stick rating and glove rating, but he can actually control the puck once you get the chest protector in front of it. So if you're good with like I know Ice Storm, other people, I love using Kelly Rudy in draft leagues. You get him in front of the puck, he's perfectly fine. It's just, you can't trust him with a whole lot more than that. Stauber, very similar overall rating, but his lack of agility kind of makes him a non-starter there, because if you're going to be using a manual goalie a lot, he needs to be able to move, and Stauber can't really move. So I'm out on him. I'm a Kelly Rudy or die guy.
It makes sense because he's the best they have over in Knickel. We're not even going to mention him. And I can't believe you love this team. And actually, I can't believe it actually makes sense now I think about it, because they're fun to play with. They have so much talent out there, and you have so many different options. You were talking about even Carson and Curry, which they will struggle to get ice time. And Robitaille, most teams, he'd be starting maybe center even for the most part. He's got so much skill, but here he's struggling to crack this lineup. Just such a solid team, and the goaltending situation just neutralizes whatever talent they have up there. But just I'm looking at this, a lot of greens over here, both on offense and on defense. Well, after Blake and Sidor, as Blake and Jitnik gets pretty slim pickings, but still the just a solid team. But you know what? I have to say, once again, a lot of fun to play with. I thoroughly enjoy playing with this team. Just don't know what's going to happen. You're going to be either up 8-6 or down 8-6, but who cares? It's going to be a fun game either way. And just, I love playing with them. Just, it's a great amount of fun with them.
Yeah. What I like about the Kings most is that you see all these green cells, but they're very diverse. Like, you have your shooter, you have your playmaker, you have your guy that can kind of do both, and you have your really fast guy. So you have options. It's not like, oh, they all do the same thing. Or they all have, like Quebec, they all have great shot actually. Cool. But can any of them do anything else at a high level? Not as much as like the Kings can. That's why I love them, because Robitaille is a top 20 forward easily, but I don't like to start him because I just like to be able to diversify my lineup a bit more. Granato, who's, he's a great forward in his own right, but there's something here for everybody, I think, if you can get past the whole goalie conundrum.
And Gretzky's so fun to play with because he's amazing on both ends of the ice. And any final words before we dive into San Jose?
Don't sleep on these guys. If you think you can just go score on Rudy, they'll score on you just as much, if not more.
San Jose, tier 6. In my opinion, the top tier of tier 6. I don't know what it is, but these guys individually, collectively, they're stellar. I have a lot of success playing with this team and actually put up some decent fights against far better teams. And if you look at it, it's like, how could they do it? I don't know how it's done, but San Jose, they do it. They're just all about results. So let's dive deep into them. What are your thoughts on San Jose?
So that's a great point that you bring up. They're probably the best 5-man unit, and goalie included, so 6-man unit, top to bottom. They're the most even, at least. Tampa Bay has the great forwards, but their defense is terrible. Florida has a great defense and goalie, but their forwards are terrible. San Jose kind of has a little bit of everything, so they're pretty nice to use. Basically, all the lines are the same 3 forwards: Gaudreau, Falloon, Berezan. It's just, how do you want to arrange all these right-handed guys? That's basically the question you have to answer, and that's kind of up to you. I don't think there's a clear option for everybody. I mean, personally, I like Gaudreau on the left wing because he can just do EA specials. I like Berezan on his natural wing because he can do the short side deeks and just kind of play the up and down game on his wing, and then throw one-timers to Falloon in the middle, who's not the best shooter on the line, but he's your best one-on-one guy. He's your best stick handler. He's going to have the easiest time keeping up with the other team's forwards and what they're trying to do, and eluding their defensemen as well. So that's why I like to have him in the middle. He's just kind of their best player, so I want him to have the most influence on all areas of the ice. The depth, basically all the thing about San Jose is they're all very similar weight, 7 weight, 6 weight. That's basically what you're going to see. So Kissio, he's your most skilled player, but he's the slowest guy on the ice. 2-2 skater. So it's really tough. Like, you can maybe get away with him in tier 6, but I tend to stay away from him because I just want guys who can move at a higher rate. Garpenlov, he doesn't have enough pop in his game, even though he's a little bit better skater than Kissio. I prefer the faster Falloon and Berezan 4-4 skaters, and then Goudreau's shot is a little bit better than Garpenlov. John Carter's your weight bug guy, but he's got just completely devoid of skill. But you'll see him on the penalty kill every once in a while. And then I just put Odgers there for fun. CB guy. If you want a CB guy, that's what you have to deal with, so don't. 1 agility, 1 pass. Slow skater, doesn't do a whole lot out there, so just he's a future captain, so I'm just paying respects to Jeff Odgers, really. But current captain Doug Wilson mans the defense, and he's one of my favorite players in the game. He's got 4 agility, so when you get those, he has some really dirty floaters that he can do to teams. 6 shot power, 4 agility on these pylons in the net. Abear, Sidorkwitz, Tugnut, Wendell Young. He devours these guys, those floaters, and the slappers too if they hit the net. And he's got the 1-shot accuracy, but it's not as dangerous to use your 1 accuracy 6-shot power defenseman in tier 6 because the counterattacks aren't as strong as they are in tier 2. Like when you have McKinnis, you have to be much more cognizant of what you're doing because these teams can really hurt you. Tier 6, you have a bit more time to react. The defenses aren't as swarming, so you can maybe get into those areas a little bit more easily with a guy like Wilson. And you really want his offensive influence. He's got the good pass ratings, a good stick handling rating as well. So he's a great number 1 defenseman at this level, especially, and he's very useful. Wilkinson, kind of just as his partner, he's a right-handed shot. There's not a lot of useful right-handed shots on San Jose on their defense. I like to have the natural-sided defenseman, so Wilson on the left, Wilson on the right. I feel like they work pretty well together, and Wilson even has the poor passing, which I don't know why he got because he's never much of a playmaker, but we'll take it. I mean, it'll help get those counter attacks going to your forwards because you really want to play a game-breaking style with San Jose. You want to try and make it into a bit of a track meet because they're the fastest team in the tier. So why not use that strength to the best of your ability? Ozolinsh is a perfectly fine player, but he doesn't have the passing rating that Wilkinson has. But I mean, you can start either one. I just prefer Wilkinson because he's right-handed over Ozolinsh being left-handed. Smolek's your big CB check guy. He's fine. Maybe a little bit too big, but at this tier, you can get away with that. And Tom Peterson's your weight bugger. So a lot of people will go to their weight buggers at this tier, even if they're really poorly rated like Peterson is. He's got 1 agility and 2 speed, but 4 weight. He's right-handed. He doesn't feel as bad as you might think on paper. So he's actually tolerable in these lower expansion matchups. And then your goalie, Artie Urbe, the Latvian, love him. Not so much in this game. They kind of did him dirty with the agility, the 2 rating. And this guy could do the splits post to post, and he's like 5'8". So they didn't give him enough respect. But again, this is their 10-win team. Not that 10-win team. It's the 10-win team. 11-win team, excuse me. So like not like that, a lot of success. They couldn't rate the goalies too high. So just the fact that he's like a 50 overall is nice. And then the backups, don't use the backups. Stay away from them. Leave them alone. Act like you never saw them, and just ask them to open the gate at the end of the bench. That's all. And what's unique about San Jose is they actually have a home advantage that's average, which it's a little bit uncommon for an expansion team. So they're pretty good at home, but they're brutal on the road. So be careful when you're calling them as a road team. They can be pretty bad out there if they get all those negative penalties applied to them. But overall, I think San Jose is a pretty fun team. Like you said, they can skate. They have enough skill to make that skating useful, especially in these lower end matchups. And just 1 through 6, they can all contribute to a winning team.
Just the sum is greater than their overall parts. The overall sum of their parts, whatever it is, they just gel really well, and they're able to compete, I think, pretty good against teams in 1 tier higher, like teams like Hartford or whatever. They could give them a real stinker, and they could be a real problem for them. Even though I know Urbe is meh, but you know what? Just for whatever reason, they are able to just hang in tight and give a tough game to some better opponents. At least on paper, they're better. But San Jose, I enjoy playing with them. Just they're underdogs. And Urbe, I just want to say one thing about him. The thing that stands out with me with him, the size of his equipment he just seemed like, he's wearing pillows as pads. And secondly, when he used to go get the puck outside the net, he was just always an adventure because he was terrible with the puck. When he starts roaming, I mean, don't blink because it's always going to be fun to watch. He was fun to, when he was white hot, he was amazing. But sometimes he used to get just, god awful in real life. But when he's white hot, he could carry a team, man. He was an interesting goalie to watch in real life. But
yep. He was
any final thoughts on San Jose before we transition to the final team?
You can get a little brave and try and take this team maybe to Hartford or New York Islanders, but I think they're best within their tier against Tampa Bay, especially at home. You just have to be aware of Bradley. You can shut down Bradley with this team, which, collectively as a team, I think they can. They can be an absolute handful for other teams to deal with.
And be careful of that road ice disadvantage because that is quite a big, the shark attack. So let's go to the last team in the Smythe division, the Vancouver Canucks. In my opinion, I just want to say one thing about them quickly. They're overrated in my opinion. They have Bure. Yeah, Ronnie's a great player, but you know what? Just that defense sucks. And he sucks so bad that it's just, for me, it's so hard to overcome them. But I want to hear your thoughts on Vancouver.
We're gonna have a serious disagreement because Vancouver, they're probably my favorite team in the game to use. I think if in a vacuum, remove like a certain guy with a certain team consideration, in a vacuum, give me Vancouver. That's what I want. Because their forwards, the way they can dictate the pace of the game is probably unparalleled. Because Ronning, Bure, Courtnall, they're all five. Well, Ronning and Courtnall are 5-speed. This is Jeff Courtnall, not Russ, by the way. And then Pavel Bure, 6-speed. These guys fly up the ice. Bure's a pain in the neck to try and take down because he's got the 6-speed and he's very light. So if you're going to try and hit him with a big, heavy guy, you got to really line him up and be very accurate with that because they're going to have a hard time accelerating to meet what he's trying to do on the ice. So it's easy for him to elude these guys. And then all the weight buggers, except for Fleury, are kind of left out to dry here because they're just going to hit him and they're going to pop right off of him. He's just going to blast right through these guys. And a lot of the same stuff's going to apply to Ronning too, because he's got 5-speed and 5 weight. And so the great thing about Vancouver is you can just go nuts with one of these guys. I'm going to go try and deke the whole team. Okay, it failed. I still have another 5'5" skater with 5 weight to run you down on your counterattack to just make your life miserable and to help cover up this defense that may be a little bit suspect. So I think the way that these two feed off of each other really enhances their ability even more as a team. And then Jeff Courtnall, you can also just use him to zoom back into the play. And he may not be as good of a checker, but he can be annoying. Just get into passing lanes, cut off angles, just be in the way in general and run down all these tier 1 forwards who are pretty fast. He's just going to keep up with them very easily because he's already fast to begin with. And then you get the turbo boost as you check back into the neutral zone and your own defensive zone. He's there. So, and it gives them time for Bure and Ronning to get back on defense, and they're going to fly back on defense because they're fast. So, like, you never feel like you're very comfortable playing against this team, I think, as an opponent. So, their two-way game up front, I think, is the best in the league. Like, no one's going to compare with this on any level. And Bure is still pretty skilled. He's got 5-stick handling. He's going to, cut through defenses pretty easily. Ronning's got decent passing. He's not a very good shooter, but he's good enough with the puck to feed Bure once he's found open space for one-timers. And then Courtnall can also make his own shots. I mean, he's not very skilled. His only green cells are his skating, but with the puck on his stick, he's not bad. So just there's a lot of shots that they can create. They can be fairly dangerous with those shots. They can stress out defenses, get them out of position, stretch them, and make goalies do awkward things. Like even in AI mode, the goalies don't necessarily always keep up with these fast, elusive players very well. And then even in manual goalie control, you can kind of bait people into things. So this is my favorite forward line in the game. Linden's a nice heavyweight player, 9 weight. He's got more stick skills than Ronning and Courtnall, but I don't feel like we've been talking about diversification a lot so far with these teams. I don't feel the need to diversify with Vancouver as much because what they specialize in is so annoying to play against that I'm willing to double and triple down on it and just sell out for it completely. I feel like Linden just kind of slows down the gameplay a little too much at tier 1. Like if it was a tier 3 team and Linden could skate out there a little bit more freely, I'd be more open to the idea of him. But at this level, I'm not so much. Semenov, you'll see him as a penalty kill sub at center. So let's just be aware that you'll see him if you don't make any substitutions. And if you have Ronning at left wing and Bure at center, as most line combinations will, you'll see Semenov at center when Bure goes off the ice. So it's good to just be aware that he's here and he's fine at this tier, even because he's just such a straight across the board player. And then the depth on this team at forward is not the greatest, so I tend to stay away from it. I never know who to put in, whether it's Greg Adams or Murray Craven, Linden. It's just kind of a feel. Like, okay, who got hurt? Who's going to the box? What am I looking for against this match specifically? So I don't have an obvious player to pull off the bench. And then let's get to that defense that, very maligned. I know you already dragged them through the mud. I know King Raft drags them through the mud. I know a lot of guys, not just King Raft, I don't mean to single him out. A lot of guys in the community drag this defense through the mud, and I think they're fine at this level. Lume's got 4 agility. He's good with the puck on his stick. When you think about the guys he's going against like Roenick,
Yzerman,
thank you, Cicerelli, LeBeau, Savard, those type of guys. He can actually weight bug check a lot of them. Not weight bug, excuse me, CB check a lot of them. So, and he's a very good skater. 4 agility, that's the kind of guy I want trying to CB check any of these guys. And if not, he can kind of just shadow them very well and stick check them or just get in passing lanes and be in the way. And he's great. And then Lidster, I like Lidster because he's on his natural right wing side or right defense side. He's got 3-3 skating, and with the better right-handed skating animations, he's very comfortable to use, I think. Especially if he's not having to kind of chase back into his own pivot and then get after these faster forwards. Like if he's already kind of in his spot, he's great to just kind of shift people over to the boards or step into them if they're trying to cut in. And then when he has the puck on his stick, he has 4 passing, 4 stick handling. He can just distribute the puck up the ice to these very fast forwards for great counterattacks. So that's what I like about this defense is that when they get the puck, which I think they can move it up very easily. And then Lister's also got forward checking. So even if he's not being used by you, he's still doing work off to the side to try and mess up these offensive approaches by your opponent. So I really like this defense, actually. I think they're slept on, especially at this tier, because I think in this tier, they can play with it perfectly fine. Like I'd almost rather have Lume than Lidstrom because sure, Lidstrom's a weight bug checker, but how many guys can you weight bug check that are useful in tier 1? I mean, you're not going to weight bug check LaFontaine or Howard Chuck or Bure or Courtnall. Courtnall, yes, but Roenick, no. So how useful is he? Give me the guy with the same skate ratings with a little bit of CB check. So that's where my mind goes. And then their depth is very Edmonton-like. Big, heavy dudes that can hit. And Didick and Slager are fine, but I'm not starting them over what I already have. And then McLean's a perfectly serviceable goalie. He's basically your middle of the road, number 13 of 26 starting goalies in the game. He's no worse than Shovel Day. He's a little bit heavier, but it means he's just going to be able to stand up to goal rushes or crease cuts or crease crashes a little bit easier than Shovel Day will. He's not as great in manual, but he's a little bit better against EA, especially because he won't get pushed back as far because he's a little bit heavier. So he's a perfectly fine goalie at this level. He's not going to lose you too many games. If the other team scores on him, it's probably because you played poor defense more than he bumbled the puck around. I mean, we're obviously not expecting him to be Belfour or Wall. So I think Vancouver is my favorite team, and that's because the 3 forwards are just feed off each other so well. The defense is serviceable, and the goalie is serviceable as well. So give me the dynamic forwards because the forwards have the most influence on the game. And if I can give the puck to any of the 3 of them, I feel like I can do a lot of damage very quickly with them. That's the team I want.
And therein lies the difference between an accomplished player like you versus a jabroni like me. I can't use Vancouver and turn them into and use them to their fullest potential. You can, and that's the difference. I just, for whatever reason, I'm not able. They could skate like with the wind, like the wind. In fact, I like to use Linden at the center for whatever reason. Even though you're mentioning it kind of slows things down, I kind of prefer to slow things down because that's just, I'm not as good a player as you. So that's the difference between a good NHL versus 94 player versus somebody like me who's not. And so that's why I'm looking at Vancouver and it's like, man, oh man, it's could be tough to use. They're just like a Ferrari, and if I'm not a competent driver, I'm just going to be just showing it off on the side of the road more than anything else. I'm not showing it what it could really do. So, yeah, man, I want to see you in action with this team more than anything. I got to go watch some of your footage on this.
There's some good Vancouver footage out there, and to your point, I left lines available for other people who have different tastes. So Linden is an acceptable center. You can put Bure on it anywhere; he's going to be fine. You can put Ronning on either wing; he's going to be fine. If you want Linden in there, okay, yeah, put him in center. You can put him on the wing and keep Bure in the center. I mean, there's no real wrong answer with that type of combination. So those options are available for other tastes. I just love speed. I have a need for speed. It has to be satisfied, and this team does it. And like to your point, also, it takes time to develop a rapport with this team. You're not just going to pick them up and go, okay, well, here's the speed, and we're going to make it happen. You kind of have to learn how it all works. So this is a team you have to put time in with. Like, I wouldn't just walk into a tournament and blindly pick Vancouver.
That's fair.
This is a team I would want to have some development with, because if I don't, and my other opponent loves Vancouver because they've dabbled in with this team, you're in for a world of hurt. They will. You could pick Montreal, you could pick Chicago, you could pick whoever you want. You could pick the best defensive team in the game. They're going to tear them to shreds if you don't know what you're doing.
Agreed. Any final thoughts on Vancouver before we wrap things up?
Everybody, please forget that I love Vancouver and just give them to me in tournaments. Thank you.
So there you go. This is a fair warning to everybody out there. If you're playing AJ, make sure he does not get Vancouver, or else you're going to be in for a very tough time moving ahead. So yeah, AJ, thanks for coming on. Any last words before we sign off and wrap up the Smythe division, which also wraps up the conference? I think it's the Western Conference. So any last words before we get off here?
I know we've ran a little long, and my apologies for that, but we do have one bonus team to the right of.
Oh, my bad. I totally forgot about Winnipeg. You know what? It doesn't matter if this is going long. Let's just keep going at this. Winnipeg, you know what? A forgotten team by me. I can't believe that's the case. The reality is I never use Winnipeg. Very rarely do I use Winnipeg. And every time I do, I'm pleasantly surprised. Solani is world-class. Housley is world-class. Essenza is very, very good, I think. And I love the weight bug options that are available for Winnipeg. But yeah, let's go on. Let's see what you got to say about Winnipeg.
So to be fair to you, this is the last year that Winnipeg was in the Smythe division, 92-93. They actually moved to the North for 93-94 when Anaheim came to the league. So it could, totally understand how this happened. And Winnipeg was also a team that I also didn't use for the longest time until I used it in a classic season. I think it was 2019 or 2020. I forget what it was. So for 15 years, I just basically ignored them. Okay, I don't like them. Put them over to the side. I'm never going to touch them. Leave me alone. They're one of those, I say, a handful of teams that I just did not understand. And then what I started doing with Classic was I started picking teams I didn't understand and said, okay, we're going to take these 40 games and exhibitions. And we're going to figure it out and get a game plan. And now Winnipeg is one of my favorite teams after ignoring them / disliking them for the longest time. So why do I feel that way? Well, Solani is obviously a top 5-ish type player. He's got the same skating package as Pavel Bure, but he's right-handed, so he skates even a little bit better. The reason I don't like Solani as much is that he's got 6 weight as opposed to 5, so he's not as good on defense, and he has 4 stick handling as opposed to 5 for Bure and other guys like Roenick and Yzerman who have 5 stick handling. So it's a little bit trickier to go through traffic with Solani, but at his speed, he's still capable of it. You just have to be a little bit more careful with what you're doing. And then the supporting cast is odd at first glance because you have a very slow Zhamnov who you can put on the right wing. He's got 3 speed, but he has 5 agility, 5 stick handling, 5 passing at 7 weight. He's one of the more unique players in the game, and it takes time to get used to what he can do because you go, oh, he's so slow, I can't do anything with him, and then I don't have the puck with him because I'm giving it to Slonny. It's like, what's this guy doing? Well, actually, no, he's a very key piece to the offense, especially when breaking out of your zone. Like you're in the neutral zone, you can do all these little jukes and shimmies with him to try and open up passing lanes to then find Solani or his other wingmate, Davidov, who's kind of an underrated shooter. He has very low awareness, so his overall takes a hit. He also has very low checking, but 6 weight, 4-4 skating, the right-handed shot. You put him on the left wing, and he just kind of gobbles up goals. Like he's like just better Craig Simpson, even though he doesn't have that good of a shot. Mm-hmm. Just he's better, kind of getting to his spots because he's a little bit faster. He's very dangerous, even when he has the puck on his stick. Like you don't have to just rely on one-timers with him. You can give him the puck, and he's dangerous, especially like floaters, slappers, dekes. Just a lot of different things that he can do. And he can even kind of play center if you really want him to and put Solani on the wing. He gives you options. He's like a little bit of a do-everything player. He's not quite as good as Reichel, but similar vein, very similar. And then Borsato is your weight bug specialist, 4 weight, but he's also slow. So if you have him and Zhamnov on the ice, you have 3 speed wingers, which is a little tough at this tier because they're tier 2 team are the Jets. So you want to have a little bit more speed. So I usually go Borsato and Davidov if I do that, but then I lose my 5 stick handler. So it's about you have to decide what you want to give up to get what you want to get in the end. So that's kind of up to the player to determine on their own. And then Steen's just a good sub that you're gonna see on the PK. He's got 5 passing, but he's a little bit slow. Doesn't have like a great shot. Doesn't have as good of agility as Zhamnov. So he's clearly kind of a sub player at this level. And then the rest of the lineup's just either big slow dudes or little tiny guys that aren't as skilled as Borsato. So it's tough to recommend them over anybody else, but they're there for informational sake because you will see Mike Eagles very occasionally on the penalty kill. So it's just good to know what he's capable of, which is running into the other team very effectively and then losing the puck after that. But then we go to the defense and we have, more secrets being exposed. Phil Housley's probably in consideration for myself as definitely a top 10 player and in the argument for a top 5 player in the entire game, forwards included. That's probably a hot take to most people's ears because Housley, he brings up a lot of he's a very vexing player. People either love him or they despise him. They despise him so much that they won't even start him or draft him or anything. They don't want anything to do with him because they feel like he doesn't play defense. And I feel like he's Bobby Orr. He'll go play offense, and then you just don't switch player control with him. You just turn around and you come back, you fly back into the play, and you're there. Or if you really have to, you do switch off, and he'll turn around and he'll be there. He'll come, like I see him so often, come trailing the play, pick off that pass, coming to the trailing center for that classical one-timer. Look, there's Housley. He just picks it off. And then you're going back the other way with one of the most dangerous players with the puck on his stick in the entire game. Sure, he doesn't have a great shot. He has 3-shot power, shoot 2 accuracy. But I don't care because he can dangle. He can make plays. He's got 6 stick handling, 6 passing, 6 agility. It's like, how are you going to catch this guy? Mm-hmm. And he's still dangerous enough around the net to make a lot of goalies look bad. So I love House. Like I will take him every day of the week and change my offensive game plan because I have him. He's like playing with 4 forwards, and it's very difficult to man up and guard 4 forwards as a defensive team. So if you don't like Housley, I just say put more time into it. Figure it out.
Agreed.
Do things you wouldn't usually do just to see how they work, and then maybe you'll find something. Because that's how I found out about Housley. It's like, because I'm always about get the puck with the defenseman, move the puck up the ice with a pass. Now it's like, okay, I got Housley. I can make a little space in my own defensive zone, reevaluate. Do I want to pass it? Do I want to skate it up? And then just kind of continue this like progression up the ice as you go with him. It's like, okay, is the defense shading my other players? Keep going with Housley. Are they converging on me? Dish it off. Or, you don't always make the same decision because you obviously want to have variance to your play, but Housley just opens up so many things that you can't just ignore him. And then Newman, I think, is just his best partner. He's right-handed. You put him on the right side. He's got 4 agility, which is really nice. 5 defensive awareness. A lot of guys like the high defensive awareness players. So he definitely has that. And he's a very nice player to use. He's kind of the same thing as Lume, but just right-handed. So I like those type of players. And then about 10 is your main sub. He's weight bug-ish, but not especially so. But he does have 4 checking. So even in computer mode, he can get a little rough out there and start throwing the elbows. And then Olafson's kind of the most. He's another player that confuses a lot of players because he's heavy. He's not super fast, but he's got stick skills and poor checking. So he's kind of a weird trade-off. Like he's a Housley-ish type player without the dynamics skating. I tend to not put them both on the ice at the same time. I think that's too much. But he's there. I mean, if people don't want to start Housley and they refuse to, they can get Olofsson out there on the right side, put Boateng on the left, or even Newman on the left, and you can get some of what Housley can provide, at least in terms of puck movement. And then Essensa, like you said, at this tier, he's I think the best goalie in the tier. So that's very useful. He's great in user control, 3 weight, 4 agility, solid pad ratings across the board. So he's a very underrated goalie. I think you go, oh, it's Juan Belfort and nobody else. Well, I think Essensa is pretty decent at his range, especially. You can trust him with a lot. So very weird team to use. Very the forwards, especially, like they're all different speeds. They're all capable of very different things. So it could be difficult to get that chemistry going. But once you figure it out, like this is another team in a vacuum, I'd feel comfortable with in my top 5. Like I don't know if I'd take them over Chicago, but I'd be paused. I'd pause and think about it in a vacuum. Like, well, shoot. I mean, people know the game plan against Chicago. Shut down JR. What's the game plan against Winnipeg? It's not as easy to determine because who do you slow down? Solani or Housley or Zamnov or Davidov? So I feel like they have balance. They have top 5, top 10 players at both positions, forward and defense. A great goalie. I mean, I feel like they're always moving up my ranks personally.
Yeah, they could compete easily, in my opinion, against Montreal. Montreal is a really good team, but for whatever reason, they could give Montreal fits. And I'm just looking at them compared to even like Boston, for instance. They could match up very well against them if the right situation presents itself. So Winnipeg is a top tier team in the right situation. It's just sometimes, for whatever reason, you just get that one game that just they're not clicking, and then they're just not an A tier or tier 1 team. But they're darn close. Like they're almost there. They have everything you need. But yeah, any final thoughts before we officially wrap up the Smythe division and this episode?
This is a very dangerous division to call matchups in, but it can also be very rewarding because Winnipeg, Vancouver, Calgary, LA, Edmonton have extremely high ceilings. And most of these teams also have extremely low floors, especially at their tier. Like when you get a bad Vancouver, a bad Winnipeg, I talked them up as best I could. But even, if they're in a tough, they got a lot of disadvantages in the game for whatever reason, they can be very difficult to use. So just, be aware, take your time in this tier. Don't just pick teams to pick them because in the right hands, these squads are just unparalleled, I think, in the game. They're very dynamic. They're very dangerous. You got to be careful.
Have fun with LA, I guess. That's what we'll take away from all this. Because, my gosh, what a squad they have. And what a terrible goalie to go along with it. But, yeah. So, AJ, thanks for coming on to do this. And I apologize to you, AJ, for going a little bit longer. I was hoping to wrap this up a little bit earlier. My schedule's more open than yours. So I want to thank you for being a little bit flexible on this. So appreciate you coming on, and this is awesome stuff. And 2 more episodes to go before we're done. So
yes, halfway home.
Halfway done. All right. So if you are listening or watching this, I hope you enjoyed it, and keep your controllers plugged in and your stick on the ice.